I never thought I'd find myself in the kind of situation that turns your life upside down in a heartbeat. My name's Mark, and I had been married to Lisa for 7 years. We had what I thought was a good life together. We lived in a cozy little suburban home, had a couple of dogs, and managed to keep the romance alive. At least, that's what I convinced myself. But looking back, there were always signs that I chose to ignore. It started slowly. I noticed Lisa was spending more time on her appearance, more makeup, new clothes, and she started hitting the gym more often. At first, I figured she was just focusing on herself, trying to feel better. I thought it was great she was taking care of herself. But then the late nights began. Excuses rolled off her tongue with an ease that made my skin crawl. "I'm working late," she'd say, or "I'm going to a friend's house for a girls' night." I'll admit it, I was trusting. I didn't want to believe that anything could be wrong in our marriage. I mean, we had built a life together, right? But then came the day when everything changed. I had just gotten home from work, ready to unwind with a cold beer and some Netflix. The house was quieter than usual. Lisa's car was parked in the driveway, but she wasn't home. I looked around and noticed her phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. Normally, I wouldn't touch it, but curiosity got the better of me. Maybe I was looking for trouble, or maybe I wanted to find something to reassure me that I was just being paranoid. I picked up her phone and saw a text message flash across the screen. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but the message was clear enough. "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." My heart sank. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I flipped through her messages and found more Instagram DMs, late-night texts, pictures. It was all there, a digital confession that she had been seeing someone else. I felt anger boiling inside me, mixed with betrayal. I put the phone down and paced the living room, trying to wrap my head around what I had just discovered. Who the hell was this guy? Why would she do this to me? It turned out that the bastard was her tailor. My mind raced as I thought about the time she spent choosing clothes, the late-night fittings. I had always thought it was just her trying to look good, but now it made sense she was dressing up for him. When Lisa came home, I confronted her immediately. I could see the panic in her eyes when I brought up the texts. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice shaking. "You're being ridiculous, Mark." I tossed her phone onto the coffee table. "Ridiculous. You're cheating on me, Lisa." I saw the texts. She backpedaled, digging a hole so deep that there was no way she could climb out. "It's not what you think. He's just a friend, and those messages were nothing, I swear." But I wasn't buying it. The anger I felt was quickly turning into heartbreak. How could she lie so effortlessly? The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by this stranger who thought she could play me for a fool. That night, I felt completely lost. I didn't sleep, and my mind kept replaying every moment with her, every loving word that now felt tainted by lies. The emotional impact hit me like a freight train. I loved her, and she had shattered everything we built together. I didn't know what to do next. Would I try to work through this, or was it time to cut my losses and walk away? Waiting and wondering felt agonizing, but as I sat there in the darkness, one thing became clear. I was done being the victim. It was time for me to reclaim control over my life, and I was determined to make sure she understood the consequences of her actions. I'd show her what she'd lost. I'd show her that I could glow up even more without her. The decision I made that night would set in motion a plan for revenge that she would never see coming. And as I formulated my next steps, I felt a spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could come out of this stronger than before. After a sleepless night filled with anger and disbelief, I woke up with a newfound resolve. I spent the day in a haze, replaying the confrontation in my mind and trying to make sense of it all. Lisa had left the house early, likely to avoid facing me again, but that was the least of my concerns. I needed to take action, and the first step was to focus on myself, physically, emotionally, and mentally. I decided to hit the gym. In the past, I had let my fitness slip, but now I wanted to reclaim my body and my confidence. I joined a new gym nearby, one that had a reputation for being intense. I needed that intensity. I dove into my workouts, pushing myself harder than I ever had before. I started eating better, cooking meals that nourished my body instead of just filling me up. The routine felt good. I felt empowered. As I worked on my physical transformation, I also began to rethink my wardrobe. I didn't want to wear the old shirts that Lisa had picked out for me. I wanted to wear clothes that made me feel confident and attractive. I found a new tailor, one who could bring out the best in me without the association of betrayal. I began to buy fitted suits and stylish casual wear. I could already see the changes in my body and my appearance, and it felt great, but I wasn't just working on the outside. I reached out to a few friends, guys I hadn't connected with in a long time. We used to hang out all the time, but with the marriage, I had let those relationships fade. I needed them now more than ever, people who could remind me of who I was before Lisa's lies clouded my vision. We hit the bars, went to sporting events, and even took a weekend trip up to the mountains. Each day felt like a step away from the pain and betrayal. I also took the time to reflect on what had happened. I dove deep into my feelings, processing the betrayal instead of burying it. I wrote in a journal, pouring out my heart about the hurt, anger, and confusion. I remembered the good times, but I also acknowledged that many of those moments were now tainted by her infidelity. This was my healing journey, and I was determined to come out of it stronger. After a few weeks, I felt like a new man. I was losing weight, gaining muscle, and my new clothes made me feel like I could take on the world. I also began to explore my options for the future. What would my life look like without Lisa? I started thinking about my goals and dreams that I had put on hold for too long. I even thought about picking up some hobbies that had fallen by the wayside: photography, hiking, and even trying my hand at cooking gourmet meals. But it wasn't just about me anymore. Lisa had made her choice, and now I was ready to show her what she had lost. I wanted her to see me thriving while she was left behind. I started planning my revenge, not the kind that would get me into legal trouble, but the kind that would hit her right where it hurt, her pride. I learned that she had been telling everyone that our marriage was fine despite her indiscretions. I decided that the next time we had to interact, I would be a complete contrast to the image she was trying to maintain. I would show her the glow-up she never saw coming, the man I could be without her. It was time to execute the plan. I casually let slip to a mutual friend that I was hitting the gym hard and feeling better than ever. The word spread like wildfire. I posted pictures of my progress on social media, showcasing my new style and physique, all while subtly hinting at my newfound freedom. I didn't want to be cruel, but I wanted her to know that I was moving on. I knew that as my transformation became evident, Lisa would be forced to confront the reality of her choices. I wanted her to see me thriving, glowing, and living my best life. And I couldn't wait for that moment when she had to face the consequences of her actions. With every day that passed, I felt my confidence grow. I was reclaiming my life, and soon I would be ready to take the final step in my revenge. The anticipation was thrilling. I could almost taste it. The transformation I had undergone wasn't just visible, it was palpable. With every passing day, I felt a renewed sense of self, and the excitement about what lay ahead began to overtake the pain of Lisa's betrayal. I was more focused than ever, and I knew that I had to time my next moves carefully so that they had the biggest impact. After a month of intense workouts and a revamped wardrobe, I felt confident enough to step out with my friends again, and I planned a gathering that would also include Lisa. I orchestrated a casual get-together at a popular local bar, inviting a mix of friends from both our circles. My intention wasn't just to socialize. I wanted Lisa to see me thriving and enjoying life without her. When the day finally arrived, I showed up early to set the mood. I wore a fitted navy blazer and a crisp white shirt, paired with some new jeans that highlighted my hard work at the gym. I could feel the eyes of the other patrons on me as I walked through the bar. It felt good to be noticed again. My heart raced with excitement and a hint of nervousness as I prepared to see Lisa. As guests trickled in, I chatted and laughed with my friends, sharing stories from the past few weeks. I could feel a mixture of anticipation and adrenaline coursing through me. Finally, Lisa arrived, and the moment I'd been waiting for had come. She walked through the door, looking as if she was trying too hard to impress. She wore a tight dress that didn't quite fit her as well as she might have hoped, likely a remnant of her attempts to win over her tailor. The moment our eyes met, I could see her expression shift. She recognized the glow-up. I greeted her with a smile, maintaining a confident demeanor. "Hey Lisa, good to see you," I said, my voice steady and casual. "Mark, wow, you look different," she replied, her voice trailing off as she took in my appearance. I could see her trying to mask her surprise with irritation. "Yeah, I've been hitting the gym. Feels great, actually," I responded, casually sipping my drink. I made sure to engage with my friends and keep the energy up, all while strategically keeping Lisa close enough to witness my interactions, but not so close that it felt forced. Throughout the night, Lisa attempted to engage in conversation, but every time she spoke, I could see her struggling to maintain her composure, especially when my friends complimented my transformation and asked how I was doing. I made it a point to highlight my ongoing adventures, the trips I was planning, and the new activities I was getting into. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices pressing down on her. As the night wore on, I noticed the attention of other women in the bar shifting toward me. A few approached, complimenting my new look and asking about my fitness routine. Every laugh, every flirtation was another nail in the coffin of Lisa's dwindling pride. I could see the jealousy creeping into her features, though she tried to mask it with forced smiles. At one point, when I stepped outside for fresh air, Lisa followed me. I could tell she was ready to confront me, and I braced myself for what was coming. "Mark, you're really putting on a show, aren't you?" she said, crossing her arms. "A show? No, I'm just living my life," I shot back, keeping my tone even. "You know, you always said I needed to take better care of myself. Is this what you wanted, to make me feel bad about myself?" she accused, her voice rising slightly. "It's pathetic, Mark. Pathetic. Or is it just hard for you to see me thriving while you're stuck in the past?" I countered. "You made your choice, Lisa. This is the consequence." Her face flushed, and for a moment I could see the walls she built around her breaking down. All those late nights and lies were weighing heavily on her as she stood before me, realizing that she had lost the person who was once devoted to her. "Whatever you think, Mark, is not the truth," she said, her voice shaky. I don't know, I didn't mean for it to happen." "Didn't mean for it to happen," I echoed incredulously. "You think that makes it better? You think that excuses you? You think I would just forget the lies?" I could see the tension in her face as she struggled to articulate her thoughts. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I wanted her to understand the depth of my hurt, to feel the sting of her betrayal. But more than that, I wanted her to realize how much better I was doing without her. The conversation ended awkwardly, with her retreating into the bar while I took a moment to let the adrenaline settle. I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. It was a complicated cocktail of emotions, but deep down I knew that I was on the right path. As the night drew to a close, I felt a sense of triumph. I had faced the woman who had betrayed me and had not only held my own but had come out on top. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, and I was ready for whatever came next. My confidence surged with every compliment and every moment of laughter shared with my friends. I was reclaiming my life, and Lisa was beginning to see the consequences of her choices. This was only the beginning, and I was more motivated than ever to show her what she had lost. I wanted her to watch me flourish, to feel the weight of her decisions, and I was just getting started. The aftermath of that night was nothing short of exhilarating. I felt like I had taken a monumental step, not only in my personal journey, but also in the emotional battle I had been waging against the pain Lisa had caused. I was riding a wave of newfound confidence, and I wasn't about to let it crash. In the days following the gathering, I noticed a shift in Lisa's behavior. She seemed unsettled and confused, often trying to reach out to me under the guise of wanting to talk about us. Each time I kept my responses short and to the point, refusing to fall back into the patterns of old. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into taking pity on her. I was done being her crutch. One evening, while I was at home unwinding after work, I received a text from her. "Can we talk? Just you and me." The message felt almost desperate. I hesitated, but I wanted her to see that I was in control now. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next day, setting the stage for whatever was to come. When I arrived at the cafe, I spotted her sitting at a corner table, nervously tapping her fingers against her cup. It was a stark contrast to the confident facade I had been putting on. As I walked over, I could see the unease in her eyes, but I also noticed a hint of vulnerability that hadn't been there before. "Hey," I greeted, sliding into the seat across from her. "Hey," she replied softly, her voice quieter than I remembered. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, and I could tell she was struggling to find the right words. I want to talk about what happened, about us." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, and let her take the lead. "Go ahead." She took a deep breath. "I know I've messed up. I was stupid and selfish. I didn't think about how my actions would affect you. I thought I could handle it, but I couldn't." I watched her carefully, noting the tears welling up in her eyes. Part of me wanted to feel sympathy, but another part of me was still angry. "It's too late for apologies, Lisa. You made your choice." "I know, and I regret it. I miss what we had," she said, her voice trembling. "I miss you. Do you?" I replied, my tone steady but with an edge. "Do you miss me, or do you just miss the idea of me? Because right now I feel like you're only here because you see me moving on." She flinched at my words, and I could tell they cut deep. "No, I'm not here for that. I've been thinking about everything, and I realize how much I took you for granted. I just wanted to see if there was a way to fix this." A part of me was tempted to let her ramble, to hear her side, but I knew where this was going. I had fought to reclaim my life, and I wasn't about to let her pull me back into the chaos. "You can't just waltz in here and expect everything to go back to normal because you're feeling guilty." She looked down, her hands fidgeting with the cup as if it were a lifeline. "I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I want to show you I can change. I'll do anything." "What does anything mean?" I asked, genuinely curious. "You think I can just forget the hurt? You think a few nice words and tears are enough to undo months of betrayal?" She shook her head, clearly frustrated with herself. "I know it's not that simple, but I want to prove to you that I can be the partner you deserve. I want to talk about how we can move forward." I took a moment to consider her words, weighing my options. Part of me wanted to walk away and not look back, but another part of me was intrigued by her desperation. Still, I wasn't going to let it sway me. "I'm not interested in going back to what we had, Lisa. That bridge is burned. You made your bed, now you have to lie in it." Her face fell, and I could see her fighting to hold back tears. "I get it. I really do. But it's not just about us anymore. I'm not the only one who's changed." "Changed how?" I pressed, curious about what she would say next. "I've realized I lost you because I was trying to fill a void that had nothing to do with you," she admitted, her voice cracking. "I was looking for something outside of our marriage, thinking it would make me happy, but it didn't. I feel empty." I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions. "That's on you, Lisa. You chose to cheat instead of communicating with me. You could have come to me about what you were feeling. Instead, you sought validation elsewhere." "I know," she said, her voice breaking, "and I'm sorry. I wish I could take it all back." I stared at her, searching for any hint of sincerity, but I didn't find it. "You can't take it back. You can't just erase what you did." The conversation rattled me, but I had to stay firm. I wasn't going to let my heart soften, not now, not after everything. "I think it's best we go our separate ways, Lisa. I need to focus on myself right now." The vulnerability I'd seen earlier seemed to wash away, replaced by a mixture of anger and frustration. "So that's it, you're just going to give up on us?" "No, I'm moving on, and you need to as well," I replied calmly. "You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. It's time for both of us to figure out who we are without each other." I stood up, leaving her at the table, stunned and silent. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had faced her and had the conversation I needed. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I was ready to embrace my new life, and Lisa was going to have to come to terms with her choices, just like I had. As I stepped back into the bustling world outside, I felt a renewed sense of freedom. I was finally reclaiming my life, and nothing was going to stand in my way. The revenge I had envisioned wasn't just about making her feel bad. It was about showing her how strong I had become. I was moving on, and there was no looking back. The days turned into weeks, and I continued to embrace my newfound life with enthusiasm. I had committed to my goals, both physically and mentally. I was hitting personal bests at the gym, enjoying activities that filled my soul, and reveling in the friendships I was rebuilding. Every step I took felt like a testament to my resilience. I was no longer the man who had been lost in the shadows of someone else's mistakes. Despite my focus on self-improvement, I couldn't deny the occasional pang of sadness that would wash over me when I thought of Lisa, but it was different now. Instead of dwelling on what we had lost, I chose to remind myself of the countless ways I had grown since our separation. I had become more independent, more confident, and more aware of my own worth. But then, just as I was starting to feel completely free, I received a text from Lisa that rocked my newfound stability. "Can we talk? I need to explain something important. It's about what happened with the tailor." My heart raced, and a wave of anxiety threatened to pull me under. I had fought so hard to move on, but the thought of facing her again churned my stomach. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. Maybe I needed closure, or maybe I just wanted to see if she had actually changed. I reluctantly agreed to meet her at a small park where we used to spend time together. The air was crisp, and I felt an odd mix of nostalgia and apprehension as I approached the park bench where she was waiting. Lisa looked different. Her eyes were slightly puffy, and there was a certain vulnerability about her that I hadn't noticed before. She was fidgeting with the hem of her sweater, and I could see that she had been crying. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice shaky as she wiped her eyes. "I know things have been rough between us, and I just want to explain myself." I nodded but remained guarded. "Go ahead." "I thought I could handle everything on my own," she started, her voice trembling. "But I realized that I was so caught up in my own insecurities that I pushed you away. The affair, it wasn't about you. It was about me trying to feel good about myself, and it backfired in the worst way." I felt a pang of anger rise within me. The "it's not you, it's me" line was classic, but I wanted to hear her out. "And the tailor, was he just a rebound?" "No," she said, shaking her head vehemently. "At first, he was just someone who paid attention to me when I felt invisible. But then it turned into something I never meant for it to be. I regret everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know. I'm trying to be better. I've been going to therapy, and I'm working on myself." I took a deep breath, trying to process her words. Therapy is a good step, but it doesn't just erase the past. "You hurt me, Lisa. You turned our marriage into a joke." "I know," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "And I don't expect you to just forgive me like that. But I hope you can see that I'm truly trying to make amends. I've realized how much I took you for granted, and I'm sorry for everything." For a moment, I felt a flicker of something, maybe empathy or remorse for her pain, but it quickly faded as I reminded myself of the reasons I had distanced myself from her in the first place. "Lisa, even if you're trying to change, it doesn't undo what you did. I can't go back to what we had. I need to focus on my own life now." "I get that," she said, her voice breaking. "I just wanted you to know that I regret everything. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. I know I've pushed you away, but I'm hoping for a chance to show you that I can be better." I hesitated, torn between the person I once loved and the reality of her betrayal. "You're asking for a lot when you've already hurt me so deeply. It's hard to see past that." She looked down for a moment, composing herself before meeting my gaze again. "I know I don't deserve this, but I want to be honest with you. I'm not looking for us to get back together. I just want you to know how sorry I am." Her vulnerability was disarming, and for a moment I felt a sense of compassion. "I appreciate you saying that, but I've moved on, Lisa. I've built my life without you, and it's actually been incredibly freeing." "I see that," she said softly, "and I'm truly happy for you. I just hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I wouldn't blame you if you couldn't, but I want you to know I'm working on becoming a better person." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our shared history hanging in the air. It was painful, yet somehow cathartic. I realized that while I might never fully heal from her betrayal, I was no longer the victim in this story. I had reclaimed my power, and I was moving forward. "I think it's best if we part ways now," I finally said. "You can continue on your journey, and I'll continue on mine. I hope you find what you're looking for." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and she nodded slowly, understanding coursing through her features. "Thank you for hearing me out, Mark. I hope you have everything you deserve." As I walked away from that conversation, I felt lighter. I had faced the demons of my past head-on, and while the pain might linger, I was ready to embrace the future. I had no idea what lay ahead, but I was confident that it was going to be brighter than anything I had experienced before. I was finally ready to move on completely. This was my story now, and I was the one writing it. I was no longer defined by my past, but by the strength I found in overcoming it. With every step I took, I felt empowered to claim my own destiny and build the life I had always dreamed of, one that was free from betrayal and full of possibilities. With the final conversation with Lisa behind me, I felt an odd mix of closure and freedom. I had faced down the woman who had once held my heart and had come out the other side stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever life had in store for me. It was a lesson in resilience, and I knew I would carry that with me moving forward. As the days turned into weeks, I continued to focus on my personal journey. I was still hitting the gym, but now my workouts were fueled by a sense of purpose rather than a desire for revenge. I was lifting heavier weights and running longer distances, feeling the rush of endorphins every time I pushed myself beyond my limits. I even signed up for a local 5K, something I had always wanted to do but had never had the motivation for. I also dove into my passions. I rekindled my love for photography, spending weekends exploring the city and capturing moments that spoke to me. I was learning to cook new recipes, experimenting with flavors that brought joy back into my life. I discovered that I had the power to nurture my own happiness without relying on someone else for validation. The friendships I had reignited were blossoming in ways I never expected. My friends were there for me in ways I hadn't realized I needed. We shared laughs, adventures, and late-night talks that reminded me of the importance of connection. It felt good to be surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me, and it was a stark contrast to the loneliness I had felt during my marriage. One evening, I hosted a small gathering at my place, inviting a group of friends to celebrate life in good company. As I stood in my kitchen, cooking and laughing with friends, I felt a sense of satisfaction that I hadn't experienced in a long time. I was creating my own happiness, and it felt amazing. That night I had a heart-to-heart with a close friend, Jake, who had been there for me throughout this entire journey. We sat on my patio, beers in hand, watching the sunset. "You've really come a long way, man," Jake said, a proud smile on his face. "I remember the Mark who was lost after Lisa. You're a completely different person now." "Thanks, man. I never thought I'd say this, but losing her was the best thing that could have happened to me," I replied, reflecting on how far I had come. It forced me to confront myself and figure out what I really wanted. We talked about the future, my goals, aspirations, and dreams that I had put on hold for too long. I felt a fire within me, a drive to chase after the life I had always envisioned. I realized that the betrayal had forced me to dig deep and find strength I didn't know I possessed. As the weeks turned into months, I had built a life full of promise and excitement. I was thriving in my career, taking on new projects that challenged me. I even began to explore new relationships, dipping my toes back into the dating pool. I wasn't rushing into anything, but I was open to the idea of love again. One day, while I was out on a photography excursion, I met Mia. She was vibrant, passionate about her own journey, and had a smile that lit up the room. We struck up a conversation that flowed effortlessly, and before I knew it, we were exchanging numbers. It was exhilarating to connect with someone who appreciated me for who I was now, not who I used to be. As I navigated this new chapter, I found myself reflecting on the lessons learned. I had learned the hard way that trust is fragile and that love should never be taken for granted. I realized that I had the power to shape my own happiness and that it was okay to prioritize myself. While the scars of my past would always be a part of me, they served as reminders of my strength and resilience. I had emerged from the ashes of betrayal as a stronger man, ready to embrace whatever life had to offer. I often thought back to that fateful day when I discovered Lisa's infidelity. It had been a turning point in my life, and though it had hurt, it had ultimately led me to reclaim my power. I hoped that she was finding her own way, just as I had found mine. As I looked toward the future, I felt a sense of optimism that had been absent for too long. I was ready to embrace love, adventure, and all the possibilities that awaited me. I had learned that losing something can sometimes lead to finding yourself, and I was determined to keep moving forward, stronger, brighter, and more alive than ever before.